Wow. God is so good. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad I'm here. I'm so glad I'm here. It's not good if you have a pastor who's not glad he's here, okay? That's a problem. Sometimes that happens, okay? I'm just like you, but I can tell you I'm glad I'm here. I'm very glad that God has not only redeemed my life and put my steps in order, but that he orders the steps of a righteous person, that when we walk in line with him, he not only comes alongside us to walk, but he orders the steps ahead of us. And so there is a right step for you to take today. And you may not know what it is, but God already knows, and he already declares that the step that you're about to take today is his step and his ground. I'm not going to take my shoes off, but I can tell you we're on holy ground. I can tell you we're on holy ground. Because every single step that we're taking in this series as a church, we've been in this series called Family Ties, and if you've been with us for this journey, we've learned what it is to be a spiritual family. We are learning what it is to be a spiritual family, to have a father who loves us, who restores. Jesus came to restore the fatherhood and turn the hearts of the fathers to the sons and the hearts of the sons to the fathers and daughters. And we have learned what it is. Thank God for Tony Fitzgerald who brought the father's heart, remember, at the beginning of our series, and brought that word of the kingdom that he is Father and that we are his children. And then we continued on to learn how to love one another as brothers and sisters in the spiritual family that we are. And as we grow in that, we wanted to be a family that grows. And we said that if we do our math of addition, he'll do his math of multiplication. That's the family of God. The family of God is, hey, I'll come and walk with you the same way Jesus did. Hey, Matthew, come follow me. Simon, come follow me. Andrew, come follow me. The same way Jesus did, one by one by one. But when you add one, he multiplies. And so we want to learn to be what it is to be a growing family. And we've been in this last chapter of our series to learn to walk in family, to walk in the kingdom of heaven. So we are a kingdom family. The kingdom family is always advancing the kingdom of heaven. Jesus came and preached. Before he ever preached about his death and resurrection, he was preaching about his kingdom coming. Because without the kingdom coming, there would be no death, and there would definitely not be resurrection. And the kingdom turned the whole world upside down of the natural and brought the supernatural to be the natural of our daily lives. And he walked the disciples through and brought them into family. And today, thousands of years later, he's making that same offer for us to walk in family. As we talked about being a kingdom family, we talked about what it means to take the responsibility of a kingdom family and say, hey, this is our job to do this. And God has given you, when you start to believe this and see this, that you see everything you have as a resource for his kingdom. And so no longer are we building our bank accounts, we're building the bank account of heaven. And if you become a manager and a steward of the bank accounts of heaven, God unlocks whatever doors need to be unlocked for you to bring about an advancement of the kingdom. And we said that as a church family, hey, how can we own this together and live in increase in the kingdom? And increase, if we bring increase, then God is going to increase and God is going to advance us forward. And we told you last week we'd be collecting these cards of increase. If you just came here and this is your first Sunday, over the last 2 weeks we collected these cards. And it's just a commitment that said, hey, I'm already giving this amount to the Lord. I'm going to give this amount. And whatever the increase was, we wrote down on cards together as a family. And so we wanted to celebrate. And today I want to celebrate with you what God's doing in increase. Because over 100 of you handed in cards thus far. Over 100 of you have handed in cards and said, this is my increase. And they've totaled up, our deacons, our treasurer, totaled all of that up and put it together and gave me a number that reaches $10,000 a month of increase. Now, here's the amazing thing that you don't even know. Here's the amazing thing, and can we have a family moment? Let's have a family moment. Here's some things, kids. It's like when you bring the kids together, they're like, oh no, family meeting. Here's some things, kids, you didn't even know, okay? Didn't even know. Some of our leaders have been praying to God about how we're going to do what we've already in faith said, God, we want to do this. In faith, we declared a budget, for instance, and said, hey, whatever's coming in, but the numbers that were coming in were like, not quite at the numbers of our faith, and so we didn't know how that was going to happen because we are a kingdom budget, which means kingdom, it's based on God, but it's also ruled by God, and so in that, we don't spend more than God gives us, okay? By the way, that's the way you're supposed to do it at home, too. Okay, just so you know, okay? That's how it works. But God can bring whatever increase He wants. That $10,000 a month is bringing us all the way right up to that line. And let me tell you, I told our board of deacons who oversees or looks at our finances, and every month, I told them, you know what? We're not done yet because there's still some more people. You know, one of our pastors said this about this kind of coming into this series, that I feel like we're waking a sleeping giant. I feel like we're awakening a sleeping giant that is in our family, of what God could do with us together if we pull together and say, God, we're going to do this together. And so $10,000 a month, over 100 people have already handed in cards. Here's my goal. It isn't about a dollar number. It was about participation. So I don't want you to feel bad today if you didn't participate. I want you to feel invited today, that if you haven't, there's still time for you today, and there's cards at the back on the tables, and you can fill those out on your way out and say, oh, I hadn't handed that in yet, or you can do the QR code and go online and do that online, however you do it. But here's what's going to happen. As we become a kingdom family, nobody should be missing out on this. Not for budgets, but for the blessing of the kingdom of heaven that we desire to bring. That's what we want. That's what we want to do together. So don't miss this. If that's you, don't miss this. I want to look at one of my favorite passages today. I say that a lot, don't I? Do I? I think I do. I want to look at one of our favorite passages today, because here's what I believe from this passage today that God has for us. That if we are a kingdom family, then we are unstoppable. Now, I know there are certain sports teams that we think are unstoppable. I happen to believe that that there's a play in football that Philadelphia created. It's called, hey, brother, you know, okay. I'm just saying, all your teams use it now too, okay? But y'all call it a tush push, okay? If you don't know what that means, just hold on, okay? We call it the Philly shove. But it's when you're on fourth down, that means you only get, that's it. You only get 4 downs to make a first down, and you got to go 10 yards in football. And when you're 4th and 1, you need 1 yard. All we do is line up, and we go rugby style, and boom, it's unstoppable. Sadly, even what we believe to be unstoppable have recently been stopped a few times. Because that's what happens when we create plans for ourselves and we get convinced that this is definitely unstoppable. And guess what? It's not. Because anything you create is definitely stoppable. But when anything God creates, when God is for me, who can be against me? In the kingdom of heaven, you are unstoppable. Not you personally. I mean Jesus in you. If he is for me, that makes me unstoppable. But there's a journey to get there. Let's go with the disciples on this journey in Matthew chapter 16. When they went across the lake, the disciples forgot to take the bread. Duh. Forgot to bring the sandwiches. I'm not going to go on a rabbit trail. Jesus, you're so good. So good to me. Jesus said to them, be on your guard against the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees. They discussed this among themselves and said, it's because we forgot the bread. Aware of their discussion, Jesus asked, you of little faith, why are you talking among yourselves about having no bread? Do you still not understand? Don't you remember the 5 loaves and fishes feeding 5,000? And how many basketfuls did you gather? Or the 7 loaves for the 4,000, and how many basketfuls did you gather? How is it you don't understand what I'm talking about when you think I'm talking about bread? I love hearing Jesus' gracious frustration with me sometimes. Like, God, I know, I don't get it yet. I don't get it. It's a journey. I know you said I'm unstoppable because you're in me, but right now I'm like, everything is stopping me. I don't get it, God. Beware of the yeast of the Pharisees. Be on your guard against the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees. Then they understood that he was not telling them to guard against, or he was not telling them to guard against the yeast used in bread, but against the teaching of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Here's what can make you stoppable. If Jesus is saying, if you want to be unstoppable, the first thing you got to do is guard your faith. Guard your faith. He says, be on guard. Be on guard. What is he talking about? If I can sum it all up for you, if you just go ahead and I don't want to save you the time from reading the Gospels. I'm just telling you, if you haven't read them, you should read them. But if you haven't read them, here's what you're going to get. There's a whole bunch of religious people who were threatened by Jesus, and that's why they tried to kill him, and then successfully did it. Actually, that's not exactly why, right, in the kingdom of heaven, that they were exactly filling the plan that God had and that Jesus had. But I'm just telling you what they thought, okay? What they thought was Jesus doesn't do anything like he's supposed to do it in the religiousness of our faith. He does not keep all of the rules of our religion. And so before we can be unstoppable, Jesus was warning us, be on guard from religion. Wouldn't you rather, let me ask you a question, wouldn't you rather than judging your neighbor, wouldn't you rather receive a miracle for yourself today and have freedom for yourself because you're so focused on the face of Jesus in worship that he breaks stuff off of you that you had no idea was even there, and just in your worship you've been healed? Wouldn't you rather have that than worry about what so-and-so is doing or what song they're singing or what... Y'all, be on guard. And here's the amazing thing about religion, right? It's just like parenting. How many people said before they were parents, like, I am not going to be my parents? Come on. Come on, somebody. You know it's true. Okay, my kids can raise your hands. If you want to raise your hands, you can say. It's okay, Brent, to say, I'm not going to be I'm raising Eden a different way. That's a good thing. That's a great thing. But here's the thing about religion. It's very similar because just like the commercials, right, that eventually you become your parents. Okay, you don't realize it. You start walking through grocery stores with speakerphone, just having a conversation with the whole world. Okay, Josh, you do this nonstop. It's like everything you do. You're already your parents. Okay, and you just walk around. You're doing all kinds of stuff, and you find yourself. Because here's what happens when we live in this world: you find yourself doing the things that were taught to you, and you didn't even know they were being taught to you. They just became natural to you. And then you notice yourself one day saying to your children all the things. And then you hear the words come out of your mouth. And you go, I can't believe I just said that. My mom used to say that to me all the time. And here's even what's worse about it is you go, that makes a lot of sense now. Because it makes a lot of sense. But here's what Jesus is saying, with kidding aside. Jesus is saying, be on guard that the religion doesn't kind of stick on you. I come to church because there's a gathering of people who have the same heart for the kingdom of heaven as I do. And I come to church to watch God work in my spiritual family. I gather him. But if I miss church next Sunday, I'm not going to hell. Did you know that? Now, we all know that. We all know that. Trust me, we've gotten over church attendance. I know the numbers. Okay? Y'all come to church like once a month or something. I don't know what the numbers are. No, not you. Not you personally, your neighbor. Okay? Okay. They don't come. They miss Sundays all the time. But when we start, if we're not on guard, what we're worried about is stopping what the kingdom of heaven wants to release in us. Wouldn't you rather have Jesus unlock the treasures of heaven in your home than worry about someone else's home? Wouldn't you rather have God unlock and free your teenager, your son, your daughter, your young adult, your prodigal, than worried about what some parent else did about their prodigal? And I'm just talking about one thing that gets in the way in religion, which is judgment. That's just one. I could preach the whole sermon on this application, and I don't need to. You know why? Because God gave the Holy Spirit to teach you. So every single one of us can have a different struggle in religion. So right now, I pray, Jesus, would you reveal in my mind, in the mind of every person here right now, God, would you reveal the stickiness of religion and the places that got stuck to me on my feet and on the bottom of my shoe right now? Would we wipe that off in Jesus' name? It cannot stick to us. It will not be on us, and we will not be a religious family. We will celebrate however the worship comes. We won't worry about the words. We will worry about the words of the one we're worshiping. And the ones that go to him. Because that's what worship is. It's not here you standing and watching. Worship is not watching. Worship is you participating and getting on your knees and coming to the throne of heaven and declaring his goodness before the throne and focusing on him, fixing my eyes on Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. That brings me in tune with heaven, and heaven comes down to earth in this moment. That's beautiful. But be on guard. Guard your faith. Oh, I'd much rather see the miracles Jesus reminded them of. Hey, you only got this one lunch. What is this among so many? The only way I get to live in the miraculous is to leave the mundane behind. We walk up to the tomb of Lazarus, and I love that he tells the disciples, you be the ones to roll the stone away. You get involved. Hey, you get involved. You fill out a card for increase. You want to see increase in the kingdom? You get involved. What resources have I given you? We start declaring that all of them are His. Everything I have is His. Then I step into increase. No problem. No problem. God owns it all. What if the miracles that we start to seeing in a church is not just what you unlocked in for blessing for you, but let me tell you, when you start to increase, God can't help it. Which is why He said, test me on this, and you just watch when I open up heaven's gate and pour out blessing on you that you cannot even contain. Because now you're not dealing with your little bank account, your cute little bank account. Now we're dealing with the treasures of heaven. But guard your faith that we don't let this stuff stick to us and we don't become those religious parts that have been handed to us. God forbid that we're a family that ever looks down on anything that God is doing because we don't like the way it's being done. Guard your faith. Here's the second thing. Change your source. Change your source. When Jesus came to the region of Caesarea, I combined Caesarea and Philippi all in one word, and that was cool. Caesarea Philippi, He asked His disciples, who do people say the Son of Man is? They replied, some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets. But what about you, He asked. Who do you say I am? I tell you, if you're walking in here and you're not sure where your relationship with God, let me tell you, that question is for you today. You feel distant from God, you're not sure where you're at with God, that question is for you today. Some of you watching online, right, that question is for you today. Who do you say that Jesus is? And if we're listening to the wrong people about who Jesus is, or relying on our circumstances, or relying on religion to teach us about what who Jesus is, then here's the perspective we get. Those who follow Jesus, oh, they're taken care of by Jesus. I'm Jesus' favorite. Right? Hey, there's nothing wrong with that because every one of us is Jesus' favorite. I'm saying that when we start to look at Jesus as some kind of problem solver for us, who's serving who here? Do I tell the master what to do? But if we have the wrong source of Jesus and perspective, or we've allowed religion to shape it, if we didn't guard our faith, and that happens all the time. However, I came to Jesus in a church that taught me what they taught me. And guess what I thought? That's Jesus. This is why we're so careful to walk with one another, because we realize we're walking with the kingdom of heaven, and the treasure of the kingdom of heaven can look really, really bad if we take that out of the equation and say, do this, don't do this, don't do this. This is what we do. This is how we do it. And then we look at Jesus differently. So Simon Peter answered, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Jesus replied, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah. Why was he blessed? For this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but my Father in heaven. When we start to listen to the wrong things, the Pharisees and Sadducees said, show us a sign. He said, an evil and corrupt culture asks for a sign. He's a sign from heaven. What are we listening for? What are we looking at that somehow discovers in our hearts that this is Jesus? And how do we describe him? Well, who we listen to determines the impact of that view. It determines how we describe him. If we feel we're disappointed a lot, or we want Jesus is typically shaped by that disappointment. Things aren't going well. I'm not doing the right, and if we've been shaped by religion, we go, the reason things aren't going well is because I'm not doing the right things. Now I'll start doing the right things, and guess what should happen in that equation? I start doing the right things, and everything should go peachy. Coming up, sunshine, rainbows everywhere I go, because I'm doing the right things. And Jesus didn't promise you a life of comfort. He said, take up your cross and follow him. He promised you right up front. He took the small print, the stuff the devil hides away, and says, this is going to be easy, this is going to be great, this is going to comfort you, it's going to be so great. It's all about you. Even everything about what we do is about you. Find the church and the people that just meet your needs and help you and lift you and comfort you and coddle you and then we are shaped, but Jesus' perspective is somehow about us. Because we're listening to the wrong source. We believe in this family that God can speak to you directly. That what can be revealed to you, we teach people to do it. That when you listen to God, God will speak to you. He has a spirit, and his spirit can speak to any person in any situation or anything. And it doesn't matter what you've done or what you haven't done. There's not a special prayer you say to do it. God desires to speak to you, and we like to help people listen to what God is saying, because we believe that if you're listening to God, you're listening and have the right source. The kingdom of heaven is about all of us hearing God and having our steps ordered by him. And let me tell you, if I have a prophecy for you and I can come say this for you, God can speak to you, but he can also confirm in your heart whether that is for you or not. You don't have to worry about that in the kingdom of heaven, because your Father loves you. And he'll come put his arm around you anytime you want. You can sit with your Father and say, hey, Dad, what's this mean? What's this mean? Oh, well, about 10% of that was for you, son. The other 90% of that was about what was going on, what I'm doing in that daughter or that son or that. But hey, I want you to take that 10. I want you to confirm that in your heart, and I want you to stand on my promises, because I'm speaking to you from heaven. See, we don't have to worry about it. When I think, like, oh God, is this next step for me? What do I do? My job, my career? Hey, can you make a wrong step when God's guiding them? No. Then that's why we can pray, God, give me the desires of my heart, because my heart is in alignment with God the Father. And my heart isn't going to ask for anything that's outside of what the kingdom desires. And as I walk in this, I begin to change my source, and the foundation of what Jesus becomes in my life is the voice of God as Father. That's what was so blessed about Peter's declaration. So Jesus says to him, verse 18, and I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church. Now, I know there's a lot of religious talk around words and exactly what they mean and exactly how that helps. I'm not a theologian. I know there's some theologians here. You guys can be theologians if you'd like. Just Google it, okay? And you're good. You can just Google what these words say. But here's the amazing thing. After all the years of seminary and studying the Greek and the Hebrew, these words do matter because they're God's words, and I believe they're anointed, and I believe that God spoke them for a reason, so that when you study, the deeper you go, you're just going to find more God. Not in a religious way, in a freedom way, in the kingdom of heaven. And so I'm okay with some of my Catholic friends who say, oh, Peter, upon this rock, Peter, I'm okay. I'll tell you why in just a moment. I'm okay with some of my friends who say, oh, upon this rock is the truth of the gospel, and upon this rock that Jesus is the Messiah, is the Son of God, and upon this rock refers to this gospel. I'm okay with that group of people who say that. I'm one of those people, and I hope you're okay with me. Now, my Catholic friends who say, no, I'm upset at you now. Don't be upset at me. It's okay. Because here's what he said. He said, Peter, you are Petros, rock. The word for Petros, rock, means stone. And Peter embraced this. He embraced this stone that he was, because we hear his words to the church in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 4 to 6. You can look at it later, where he said, all of us are living stones. Built upon what? Jesus, the cornerstone. Jesus is the cornerstone. We are the stones and we are the living stones. So that's how Peter, if you want to know how Peter looked at it, that's how Peter looked at his word from the Lord, okay? But then he said, you are Petros, and upon this Petra, I will build my church. Now, if you've been anywhere to these places, and I've been to Caesarea Philippi, thank God, and it was the most amazing trip. And I stood there and looked at a mountain. I mean, sheer rock, where Jesus is saying these words. From ground to as high as you can see up there, rock. And right there is cut out. In the center, where the water comes and flows out of it, is a river that comes up. And in that river, they worship the god of Pan and many other gods, and many other Greek gods. And so Jesus is standing there within sight of this. He would have been in sight of this, because you see along the river, you can see it all the way from the waterfall at the end of it, all the way up. You can see this mountain and this huge mouth opening that is literally called the gates of hell. And there are multiple places like this in the world where they worship other gods, and it is referred to as the gates of hell. And Jesus, who stands at one of these such places where Pan and other gods are worshipped, okay, in that place where they would be in sight, he says, Peter, you are a stone, and you will be building on this, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Not only do we need to guard our faith and change our source, but lastly, we need to charge the gates. I'm here to lead you to charge the gates, because the gates of hell will not prevail against the kingdom family. It cannot happen. It cannot happen. That's all right. You can celebrate that. This is the golf clap celebration. It's good. It's okay. You're allowed. You're allowed to celebrate. We have a celebration-free church here. Okay, doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to give more because of it. You can celebrate anytime you want. Okay, but as a kingdom family, what are we advancing in the kingdom? See, here's the thing. A lot of you are going to go watch football today. You watched football yesterday, or some of you like to watch sports, and you understand at least, or you hate sports, but you still understand this concept. There's an offense and a defense. Gates are to keep people out. They are to defend, right? It is a defensive weapon that the enemy brings to this earth, and brings a defensive weapon to try to stop the advancement of the kingdom. So there are gates, there are gates of hell around the places that the enemy does not desire for the kingdom of heaven to advance. And it's protected by these gates. They can be gates in our city. Some of them are easily protected because none of us from the kingdom would ever want to go there. That's just the truth of it. Pretty easy protection. Nobody has to even check the gates, worry about the gates. The gates are fine. Totally protected, no problem. Nobody walks in there from the kingdom. It's good. Other places in the city, it's like, oh, this is wide open. And this is wide open, the wild, wild west end of Richmond. Okay. Anybody can go anywhere. It's freedom. You don't lock your door. You don't lock your car. You don't worry about anything. You just walk in, walk out. There's no gates. There's no key. There's no worry. And the devil's got to get creative. And he starts to build gates around your heart. Places in your life. Places in your job. Places in the way people hand things to you. And suddenly that wound becomes something the enemy desires to protect, because if that gets healed, then you are walking in the kingdom more and advancing his kingdom, so we keep a gate around that place. And there are gates in our lives that we allowed this to happen to because the enemy goes, I'm good. My counselor says this to me all the time when I talk about my struggles and my problems, when I go, talk about all you guys. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But I talk about whatever I want, and he is a paid friend, okay? It's a confidentiality agreement, okay? He goes to the grave. He takes that stuff to the grave, okay? And he tells me all the time, wow, sounds like you got the devil out of bed this morning. Yeah, because maybe you're doing something. Suddenly, everything goes wrong. I'm not saying that there's a devil behind every time you turn the corner and see a problem. Some of those problems are just, you forgot your keys, duh. I mean, your car doesn't work without your key, okay? That's not the devil, that's just your ADD, all right? If you don't know how ADD works, here's what you do. You forget your keys, you walk in the house, you grab your cell phone and go, here it is, and you walk out. If you think that's funny and you understand that, then you, my friend, have ADD, okay? Because that's our life, okay? I do it every single day. I literally think I'm going to look for something, and I go, oh, here it is, and it wasn't at all what I went in the room for. Right now, I have a Yeti cup that's sitting in the back of this auditorium because I walked back and prayed with some people back there, and I brought my Yeti cup. When I came forward, I said, I don't know where my Yeti cup is, but just now, and thinking about my ADD-ness, I realized that I've been drinking from these bottles down here, and I never thought about my Yeti cup. Where's my Yeti? Oh, I just remembered. My Yeti's back there. Okay, so I'll get that after the service, maybe. Or I'll walk back there, talk to one of you, and go, that's why I came back. Some of us got ADD faith. And we're never going to charge anything, because every time we start to go and make some advancement, we just get distracted with something else. Ooh, this is the new shiny thing. Oh, this is what God wants to do. God started to take some new ground, like, oh, no. Let's go come gather together with all the kids and let's just talk about the goodness of God and the warmness of God. And we're feeling so good right now. Let's just stay right here. Don't worry about that gate. The kingdom of heaven is offense. If the kingdom of this earth and Satan is defense and gates, then what is the kingdom of heaven? This is why when it's talked about in Scripture, it talks about warriors taking up the kingdom of heaven. The strong men and women take up the kingdom of heaven. They do so with sword. They go forward. They take up the kingdom of heaven. This is why he says, put on the full armor of God. Not because you're going to stand behind a gate, but because you're going to go storm the gate. So how do we get through the gate? Well, he told Peter. He told Peter how to do it. And he's telling us today, verse 19, we got to find our keys. I knew I had keys on the brain for some reason. I will give you the keys of the kingdom. Lord, I just want the keys to my car. That's all I need right now. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of what? It's not a key I can see. Not a key I can touch. It's kingdom of heaven. And in this kingdom, there are keys, and whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. And whatever you loose on earth will be loose in heaven. And Jesus gives them a picture to say, essentially, there is no gate that can stop you. There is no gate from hell that can prevail, that can hold up, that can withstand against the kingdom of heaven. There is no gate that can stop my church family from moving forward. There is no gate, and here's proof. I will give you the key. I remember being in college, and one time I got locked out of my house. I only had one house in college. It was my last semester. I finally got to feel like a big boy and live off campus. It was really cool. One semester, and it wasn't even a real semester, it was summer session. So I don't know if you can count it, but in the summer, I forgot the key, and it was one of my first times going to the house, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and this is before cell phones. Can't text your friend, okay, and go, where's the key? Okay, you got to figure stuff out. So I started figuring stuff out. Well, I figured some stuff into that house. And let's just say it was not legal, but I got in. It was a breaking and entry, but it was my own home, and I paid money to live there, so it's okay. It wasn't actually illegal. But I had to find a way in. And my roommate got home, and he goes, did you just use the key? I'm like, I don't have a key, knucklehead. Sorry. No words of disrespect should be spoken. But friend of mine is what I said, I think. I think that's what I said. It may have had shorter letters than that. Anyway, but I said, friend of mine. If I had the key, why wouldn't I use it? He goes, I don't know. And I'm like, who's on first here? I mean, what is happening right now? But then he walks out, right? He walks out to the place. Now, everyone does under the mat. Everybody knows this, right? You put it under something. You put it under the plant, or you put it under the mat, okay? Okay, you name the thing. Now we know how to get into your home, all right? Okay, I'm just saying, careful what you testify, my sister, okay? So we have a database with your address on it, I'm just saying. But don't worry, nobody can look at it, all right? But you know the obvious ones. He walks out there and walks behind a bush in some dirt, that this is the spot that everybody knows. Oh, of course, that makes complete sense. Okay? This is how college students think, all right? I'm just saying, this is what happens. I had the key the whole time. I just didn't know where it was. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure that when a man discovered, he sold everything. He sold everything to get that treasure. I want to tell you, there's a key to the places in your heart that you haven't been able to get healing, the places in your mind that you haven't been able to get free, the activity or behavior that you just keep recycling. And when we come with a key, we don't have to bust the door in. We just go right here. Here it is, right here, key, right, open. Oh, look at that. You're free. I wonder if Richmond, Virginia, the gates of hell, how many protected places there are in our city that we have no idea how to get in. And Jesus says that if you advancing the kingdom of heaven, I will give you the keys of heaven. He doesn't give you the keys of heaven just to drive around Richmond. He gives you the keys of heaven when you're going to a gate that's in Richmond. When you're going to a gate in someone's life, when you meet someone who has addictive behaviors in their life and you say, there is no freedom, there is no hope, there is no way. Let me tell you, I know one that there is, and I'm not talking about theoretically. Right now, would you want to be free from that? I will walk with you because God is going to give me a key from heaven to unlock that place in your heart and your life. When I walk up to somebody who's the bitterness is coming out of them and that root is coming out of them and that's coming from something, I know the key to the place where it's coming from. And I don't even have to be a counselor to know that. I can just know. It doesn't mean that I don't go to counseling because there's a process, because how many of you know that once that gate is open, walking through it's a whole nother story. But I can tell you, you don't have to stay there any longer because God gave me the key from heaven. And whatever I loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. And also, too, if there's an enemy against it, if there's something working against it, whatever I bind on earth will be bound in heaven. I don't have to walk in fear. I don't have to live in fear. I wonder what it would look like to be a part of a family that's advancing the kingdom of heaven. That is completely and totally unstoppable. Well, if you think that there is not an enemy that is trying to work the opposite, then you don't understand this passage. That there will be gates of hell that try and stop and resist the church of Jesus all the time. Whether it's religious, my own perspectives, and my source of what I'm listening to and how I'm learning to do it, or it's the fact that I walk up to a gate and get distracted, or walk up to a gate and think, well, nobody's getting in there. I guess I'll go back to the church. Except the church is what God is building and advancing. And if you're not advancing it, I wonder where you are. Just something to think about. I wonder what you're advancing. If there's something that stops me, that God's not giving me the key to. Here's what C.S. Lewis said: there is a natural ground in the universe. There is neutral ground, in the universe. Every square inch, every split second is claimed by God and counterclaimed by Satan. In a nanosecond, in the spiritual realm of things that are happening, there is a war going on. And if you are acting like there's not a war going on, you are already captured and comfortable. There is a war going on. There is an enemy. For this purpose, John said, 1 John 3:8, the Son of God was manifested that he might destroy, say destroy the works of the devil. There is nothing that can stop the kingdom of heaven. I want to invite our worship team out here and ask us for an opportunity, ask you to take this opportunity right now to become the church that always advances the kingdom of heaven and is unstoppable. That isn't something that I can do a halftime speech or get you hyped up for the game and get you so psyched or storm up here. And if you storm the altar, then we'll storm the gates. Who's with me? What we do in life echoes in eternity. Some of you know the words. It's just hype. It's just a feel good. Just a moment. It's not a movement. The kingdom of heaven is a movement. It's always moving forward. We're not just being moved of God. We are the move of God on this earth. And right now, I want to invite you into the move of God, to join what he's doing, to advance his kingdom. Right now, would you stand right now where you are? In this holy hush right now, his kingdom has come. His kingdom is here. And right now, can you invite his kingdom into your heart? Right now, can you invite God to unlock? And I want to invite some members of our response team forward right now. Come on. Some of your members of your response team who God has given the keys of heaven on certain things in life. And if you have a gate that you're coming up against in your life, you have a gate that you're coming up against in your life, they want to come and pray over you. They want you to be able to pray and have freedom right now. If you're saying to somebody, I'm not, you would say to me, I'm not sure where I am and Jesus are right now. I'm not sure where I feel distant from Jesus. I'm not sure if I'm a part of this family or a part of this kingdom. I'm not sure. I want to pray with you. I want you to leave here 1,000% sure that Jesus is not only in your life, He is the Messiah, the Son of God, the living Son of God who can live in you and can set you free today. He is the King of kings and Lord of lords, and every knee shall bow and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. And if that's you and you say, I know that, I believe that, I give assent to that, but I want to have that in my heart, I'm not sure if I do, would you come pray with Sue and I right down here? We want to pray with you. If you're saying, I want to join the army, I want to leave here today as the army of God, instead of just listening to the words and the whispers of His Spirit, I'm hearing the command of a general who sends me out with words that are commanded for me to go. And I'm here to advance the kingdom of God. But before I do, I want to pray and let a door unlock in my own life. I want a gate unlocked in me. And if that's you, we want to pray with you. Whatever your heart is saying, we just say, yes, King. Yes, King. Do what only you can do right now, God, in this moment, and make it a movement. In Jesus' name.